hello and welcome, and what a welcome it was, but to today's program, Global Connections, as the World Affairs Council of Greater Houston hosts a conversation with Commissioner Adrian Garcia. I'm Sandia Bayou, Chief Development Officer here at the World Affairs Council. It's our hope that you, your family, all your loved ones are certainly doing well. Now more than ever, it is important to stay informed about what is happening not only in our city, but around the world. And the World Affairs Council of Greater Houston brings foreign affairs experts and local experts right into your home. And Commissioner, for sure, is one of such. Commissioner, welcome.
Thank you so very much. Glad to be here with you. Even if it's virtually, I'd much rather be with you in person. But we all need to continue to do the important and critical things to keep us all safe. So Sandija, thank you and the World Affairs Council for having me today.
Wonderful. Again, it's my absolute pleasure, honor to host you today. To your point where you just said, how are you, your family, your colleagues currently doing?
I am so fortunate. My family is well. My mother, God bless her, she will be turning 97 this month. And so she's in good health. She still enjoys a hamburger on occasion. And my sister, bless her heart, she has been one of the most beautiful and greatest care providers for her that anyone could ask for. But my daughter, my wife, everybody has been very, very fortunate. And so thank you for asking. And likewise, I hope that our viewers are healthy, are well, that this storm has not made things more complicated for them on top of the pandemic, but we're all in good shape, thank goodness.
Wonderful. Commissioner, you've had an extremely interesting career path. I know that we have shared some of your accomplishments on the website, but nevertheless, I don't want to assume that everybody has read it. If you would allow me, just highlight again some of those, your career path and some of the accomplishments. We'll start that you won the general election for Commissioner of Precinct 2 for Harris County 2018, and a position that you were sworn into in 2019. You have had a 35-year career in public service that began as Houston police officer. You were also appointed by Mayor Lee Brown as Director of Mayor's Anti-Gang Office, were then elected to Houston City Council and appointed as chair to 2 city council committees, the Public Safety and Homeland Security Committee and the Minority Women Business Enterprise Committee. With the support of your peers at the council, you were confirmed as Mayor Pro-Tem by Mayor Bill White. You then continued your service of being elected to the office of Harris County Sheriff, the largest sheriff's office in Texas and the 3rd largest in the United States. Commissioner, congratulations. What a accomplished career that is.
Thank you. And I am exhausted just hearing you say all that, but I love it. I'm a big believer that we are all born into the moments in which we exist and that in what we do. You were born to help lead us at the World Affairs Council, undoubtedly, and everyone who's enjoying the roles that they have in their lives were born into that. And I was just so fortunate to be born to serve the public, to be a public servant, to be a servant leader. And I've just, all of what you read is, I've got so many memories that just make each one exciting for me and bring back beautiful memories. But I just love working for you. So thank you.
Yeah, thank you. Very much to what you pointed. Like you said, you are a native Texan, native Houstonian, born and raised here with all the years of public service. And again, as I said earlier, it much started with the law enforcement. And we clearly see that you love the community, you love being public servant. So my question comes, what was it that drew you to public service, and particularly perhaps law enforcement?
I had an older brother who was a Houston police officer. And so obviously his example, I remember seeing his graduation from the Houston Police Academy And I remember that making a major impression on me. But, being the only American born of my family, my brother and brothers and my sister, my parents all immigrated from Mexico. And so my father just raised us with a spirit of giving, a commitment to our neighbors, to help those in need. And so he inadvertently prepared me for this. But it was actually my mother who encouraged me to follow in my brother's example. I was working for my dad at the time, and my mother just, mothers always know best. And so she said, have you thought about doing something else? And I said, no, I'm happy here. And she goes, no, I don't think you are. I think you should look to what your brother's doing. I think that's what you would enjoy more. And so I said, okay. I went to go apply and got processed. But then I had the hardest part of the whole process. I had to tell my dad that I was applying to be a Houston police officer. And when I did, he, obviously he was, I think, disappointed because I was not going to continue in the business with him. He had a very well-established automotive repair business. But then he came back and he gave me very good advice. And he told me to be proud of who I am, be proud of my name, not to bring shame to my name, to be honest, and to never forget where I come from. And so those guiding principles have guided me throughout my career, whether it's been as a Houston police officer, director of the Mayor's Anti-Gang Office, city council, or sheriff, or now as county commissioner. My father, bless his heart, he got to see me get elected, and I lost him later that year. But he was the one that I know prepared me for this role and to have the perspective that I have in serving this great, diverse community.
Oh, very, very well said. And it's the importance of community and the advice. And I think on that note of the mothers know best, I might ask you to send a note to my sons to,
Listen to mom.
Yeah. As we earlier said, currently you serve as the Commissioner of Harris County Precinct 2, which is also the community where you grew up, as you said, where you still live, if I'm not mistaken.
Correct.
And as I'm sure you're aware, many folks outside Texas, and especially outside the US, I have to say, that have a certain image of Texas, cowboys, the prairies, the farms, the tumbleweed, which we really don't have in some of the parts. Houston is certainly much different. And I know that your area is home to NASA, to Houston Ship Channel, the critical, lucrative pharmaceutical plants of Baytown, just to name a few of these important industries. Can you tell our audience a little bit more about your specific responsibilities as Precinct 2 Commissioner and how your duties here locally perhaps have a significance internationally, and how your precinct intersects with that global economy, if I may?
Thank you. And, I'll tell you that the role of county commissioner is really self-defined. I mean, there are some basic things like we set the budget for all of county government, the sheriff, the constables, the judges, the district attorney, the county attorney, the hospital district, the toll road, the flood control district. All those entities are governed by my role as county commissioner. So part of my job is to set their budgets and help them with their operations. Mm-hmm. But in terms of in my specific precinct, in Precinct 2, it's really defined by what I believe to be the priorities of the community, what I believe the community needs the most. And the standard area of work for a county commissioner, typically in the olden days, it was build roads, build bridges, maintain them, cut the grass alongside the road, and keep the ditches clean. That was pretty much it. But from my standpoint, I have focused on healthcare. The east side of Harris County is one of the most medically underserved areas in all of Harris County. and the refineries that are there. They're critical to our economy. They're critical to the success of our region. We play a major role in the national and global economy, but they do bring some challenges in terms of air quality and water quality, and in some cases, land quality. And so making sure that we're working with each other is a major concern of mine, a major priority. But also because Precinct 2 also has amongst the lowest educational attainment rate at the high school and post-high school level, then I've made education a major priority of my administration. But I'll tell you that at the end of the day, it is to foster new economic opportunities. And that's why I really enjoy getting to know the world, and the role that you serve in, Sandija, is very critical to me and to our success, because I want to make sure that we are doing all that we can. And given that I represent the port, my job, and one of the things I look to do, is to bring more global attention to the port, to try to attract new businesses. I am supportive of deepening and widening the port, but I want to make sure that people around the world know this. I had the great pleasure of being able to visit India before the pandemic broke out. Mm-hmm. And I was meeting with the folks responsible for the development of the port in Mumbai. And so I was making my best possible sales pitch for the Port of Houston to be something that maybe we can create a relationship with, and we continue in those conversations. And so the role of county commissioner is what one wants to define it as. But, you know, from my days on city council and having worked with Bill White, who was the mayor of Houston at the time, I remember he would often say that what people want to count on the most is a well-run city hall. And so I believe the same thing, that people ought to know their county government, and they ought to be able to count on a well-run county government. So I am looking to do things that are good for the business community, good for the diversity of our community, good to attract and build relationships across the world and across the country, looking to do what I can to ensure that any entrepreneur or business leader who wants to create jobs in the Precinct 2 area have a county government that will facilitate their quick process to open their buildings, open their businesses, begin to hire people and sell their goods and services. So I have a very, very broad agenda in front of me, but at the end of the day, it is to make the people of Precinct 2 proud that they live, work, and play in Precinct 2.
Wonderful. And if we can be, if our role be support to you and your missions, please don't hesitate to reach out, because we have a similar mission of reaching everybody in the greater Houston area. So
yes. And so on that note, I'll simply say Precinct 2 is open for business with partners across the world. We need to tell the Precinct 2 story as often as possible.
Wonderful. But to continue on the diversity, we know that it is known as one of the diverse cities in the United States. We have close to 150 languages that, you know, spoken in the area. We have more than 70 countries are served by our 2 international airports. And as we know, in 2018, you were elected again the first Latino sheriff of Harris County. And as a Latino and as a native son, one could say that you perfectly represent Houston's diversity. And given all your experience that we have referenced as well, how would you say that your years in public service and in such international diverse community shaped your views, understanding, perhaps of Houston's role in that global community? I know some of the notes will be similar to what you mentioned, but kind of from that local to global. And I very much share with my team too, that you have such a knowledge in 35 years of city in different roles. So it's such a fantastic base to start and to grow more. So it's, again, how would you comment on that and shaping of your views? Here's
Well, I will tell you that growing up, the son of immigrant parents, was probably one of the building blocks of that perspective. But also as a child, I was so grateful that every summer vacation, as soon as school let out, the first thing that we would do would be to drive to Mexico City, where I would spend my summer with my grandmother and got to know Mexico City and Mexico in general. And I really got to understand the culture. Even though I come from that, you really have to be there and see life as it unfolds on a day-to-day basis. And so I was very fortunate to see that as a child and understand it, and then spent years getting to know others from Mexico and other parts of the world. But going back to my father had he was an automotive repairman. People brought his cars to him, and the people who would bring their cars to him were Asian, African American, Anglo, obviously Hispanic, but he never referred to people by their ethnicity. He referred to them as Mr. So-and-so or Miss so-and-so. He always respected the person in front of him. And I think that's a very critical value system that one needs to have today, is that we sit across from each other. We have been made a little different from each other. Our language may be different. The color of our skin may be a little unique, but we are people. Yes. And so, looking to the person, but appreciating the diversity, I think has been something that I've been good with and good at. And it's been because it's been important to me. I want to get to know where people are from. And so as I raised my daughter majored, had a double major at the University of Texas, go Longhorns. And her double major was in government and international relations. Mm-hmm. Because throughout my public service career, if I was ever invited to go to somewhere, whether it's China or Canada or the UK or Israel or South Africa, and representing our city or county government, I always worked to bring her along with me. Now I would always tell her, baby, get to know the world, because it's a really small place, and you really got to know, you've got to get to know people and appreciate them, understand their cultures, and embrace it. And so I'm glad she listened to me in that regard. It was nice as she was going through college. She had a couple of roommates. One was a Pakistani young lady, and the other was an Indian young lady. And it was just so beautiful to see their interaction and how we've all become adopted families to one another. But that also blends over and must exist in government. It must exist in the way we do our business as elected officials. And so for me, it is very, very critical that county government, and as the elected leader, that I can see into other parts of the world. I can see into our diversity that exists here. And we should treat everybody with the same dignity and respect, and we should offer the doors open, and we should work with people to cultivate opportunity so that we can all benefit from it. And so I think it all works, hand in hand. And but again, I have not gotten to know all of the world. I've been to Turkey, represented Mayor White when I went to Turkey. I wish I was much more linguistic than I am, only with English and Spanish, but I picked up a few phrases here and there. But one of my greatest dreams is that I can communicate in Urdu or Farsi or in Mandarin. I really want to show the people that I love them and respect them enough to learn their language and work to converse with them. Right now, I still have to depend on Google Translate, but it gets me by.
Yeah, wonderful. Yeah, it's again the understanding the culture, being respectful language. It is something that we here at the council also cherish and always strive for and encourage. We'd like to turn conversation to the newly established Harris County's Intergovernmental and Global Affairs Department. And thank you, Department, for becoming our member of the councils. Welcome. Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. Would you tell us about especially this office and its work, perhaps vision, mandate, priorities?
Well, first, let me give a shout out to our director there, Inder Reed, who this office typically has had a one-dimensional role as to engage our state legislative offices and deal with maybe some of our other local governments, whether it be the city of Houston or others, interact with our members of Congress. But it was important for us now that we have a county judge that is a immigrant, born and raised in Colombia, and that we have people like Commissioner Ellis, who makes Africa his second home, visiting there often, and having visited other parts of the world as a legislative official and former city council member as well. That it was important for us to make sure that we stake our flag in the global economy, that we stake our flag in the global conversation, in the international arena. I'm a big believer in, as I mentioned, in building bridges and creating opportunity and being a welcoming county. That it was important for us to add the name of global affairs, so that we not only communicate to others, that we are intentional in engaging other parts of our international brothers and sisters, but that we also create that internal focus so that we are mindful that we are attached to the global economy, and it should be intentional every single day as we do our work, how we are doing our jobs when it relates to other parts of the world and those who come from other parts of the world, to make sure that we're always putting our best foot forward. So I applaud the office for their work. I applaud Mr. Reed for, number one, I was pleasantly surprised to hear the office become a member of the World Affairs Council. That's intentional. And I applaud Ender for thinking enough, because he could have sat back and said, okay, it's a part of my title. We'll go on to the next thing. But this is an intentional action, because seeing that name in the title made sure to create the thought that, you know what, it's probably important for us to be attached to others who have relationships in other parts of the world. And if you think about it, I was fortunate to visit China and Israel and UK and South Africa and Canada, even went to Mexico, all as a member of city council. But county government officials don't often engage the international arena, and that's a shame. But because I represent the Port of Houston, because I represent NASA, because I represent a very diverse community in Harris County and in Precinct 2, then it's important to me that we make sure that people understand that there's a county government, and that county government is welcoming to the international communities as much as the city of Houston is. And so I'm very, very proud of that work. You know, one wouldn't think that just a name change or adding to the name of intergovernmental affairs would mean so much, but it's major. It is major because it's intentional for us to set ourselves in the global conversation, in the international arena, and let people know from whatever part of the world they may be from, that Harris County respects all walks of life, and that Harris County should be where you live, work, and play.
Wonderful. Just a quick reminder to the audience, we have some questions coming through Q&A, and I will incorporate those in the dialogue. And thank you for that, and keep them coming again through the Q&A tab. Commissioner, still staying on the same department, are there some current hot topics or issues that impact Houston directly, would you say? Of course, we know the big ones.
Yeah, I mean, it's every day. You know, we are looking to make sure that we set the platform so that businesses from across the country, if not the world, come to Harris County to further expand their operations. That's critical because, look, this pandemic has taught us that as much as we have diversified our economy, the pandemic has put a major dent in it. And so as a result, the thing that I've been thinking about is what more economic diversity do we need to bring to our portfolio? I remember being, you know, my father also owned a gas station. And I remember in the 70s when we had the oil embargo, having people wait in line, and my job was to check whether they had a even number or odd number and whether it was appropriate for that day for us to serve them with gasoline. But and as a young policeman in the 80s, we had the second oil bust, and we stopped hiring policemen. The crime rate went through the roof, and because back then we were a one-horse show, as they say, it was all oil and gas. And we recognize that if we don't diversify our economy, the next time there's an economic downturn, it could be worse for us. But fortunately, we've learned from those lessons. We have diversified our economy as we have moved along. And so as a result, during economic downturns, it's very interesting that Harris County is usually the last one into the downturns and the first one out of it. And so I want to make sure that we continue that. I don't think we can ever protect ourselves against downturns, but I want to make sure that we are being intentional about what more can we do to strengthen our economic portfolio so that jobs are in abundance, good paying jobs in particular, and that people see the opportunity to be successful here. It's why when I went to India, that one of the places, although not in Harris County, I went to go visit the headquarters of Jindal Steel because I wanted them to know that maybe they ought to move a little further west so that they can get into Harris County. But a conversation like that has led into a good conversation. We're building a relationship, and they just appreciated that the commissioner who represents the port is in their headquarters in India. And so that is what I think is critical for us. And I think that helps us attract those businesses that will keep us strong economically and continue to make us relevant across the local, state, national, and international economies.
Wonderful. One of our viewers, Jordan, is asking, how does Harris County work with policymakers to ensure of these various stakeholders, meaning Greater Houston area's diverse population, businesses, that they are served best?
Well, look, as a key example, with this recent winter freeze, obviously there's been a lot of conversation about what happened, how could we have prevented it, what should we do? I'm leading the conversation that we need to look at how Harris County should think about having its own grid so that we could create much more predictability and reliability for our industry partners, our hospitals, and our residents. And that conversation has had me engaging our state elected officials. It has had me engaging Bob Harvey over at the Greater Houston Partnership. It's had me engaging professors in the Department of Energy at the University of Houston. So that's how we do that. As a commercial goes, that's what we do. We work to engage all of our stakeholders, all of our policymakers in the most constructive way so that we can deal with the issues that challenge us, address those issues, look for solutions, partner together. And just as I say to the international business community that we're open for business, I always say to our stakeholder, regardless of party, if one is an elected official from a different party that I may be from, that we need to work together for the betterment of our future. We may disagree on some of the nuances, but if we can create commonality and agreement on the things that make us stronger economically and much more relevant in a national and global economy, then we ought to sit down together and work as a partner and as a team for those purposes. So it's always different depending on the project. As another example, I've been working with the Army Corps of Engineers and the federal government and our respective county governments, Galveston County, Chambers County, Liberty County, to further the conversation along with Rice University, to further the conversation about the coastal barrier so that we can protect ourselves against unprecedented storm surges that we're seeing more and more. That when we had Hurricane Ike, that it really crippled our refineries. And so we have to make sure that we continue those conversations, work together, and then look to partner and engage whichever stakeholder is necessary for the respective issue at hand.
Yes, thank you so much. Another of our viewers, we touch upon some of these themes are very much connected. So I know sometimes it's the subjects are, we touch upon similar subjects, but nevertheless, it's the growth. And Lee is asking the following. In your role as a commissioner and also as native Houstonian, what is your vision for Houston going into the future in terms of its place in the global community and as a strategic international player on the global stage?
You know that Houston is only third or ranks third in the international core community. I want to rank first. You know, I was involved with the World Economic Summit that Houston hosted when we had President Bush. And it was phenomenal to see then the G8 countries convene in Houston and have those very high level conversations. We need to do more of that. We need to find ways to bring President Modi back to Houston. We need to reach out to other presidents and other heads of state from other parts of the world to make sure that we're introducing the port, the medical center, that we're introducing NASA, that we're introducing all of the other things that are critical infrastructure to other parts of the world. And so I think it's important that we be thoughtful and intentional about having something to say at the international level, other than we're home to where Houston is at, and we used to have activities in the Astrodome. We need to add to that conversation, because If we don't attract other parts of the world, then to what I was saying earlier about diversifying our economy, look, I think the broader or the broadening of our economic diversity isn't in Houston. It's not in Harris County. It's not even in Texas. It's in another part of the world. And we need to do that. So we need to find ways to bring the pharmaceutical industry closer to the medical center. It just makes sense to me. And then we need to find ways to build a stronger and more reliable grid system so that when businesses look to us, that the first thought that occurs to them isn't, oh, I remember you guys. You're the guys that froze. I don't know if I want to come here. And we have to be thoughtful about our drainage and flood control systems because, look, I went to the same school that Jeff Bezos went to. Amazon had thought about building a mega distribution center, but a hometown boy like Jeff Bezos did not want to build a center in Houston after seeing Hurricane Ike and Allison and Harvey, because obviously as a distribution center, his value is being able to get his products out and being able to get refills backstock into his distribution center. So we have challenges in front of us and we have to deal with them because this is how we remain relevant to other parts of the world. And that's how we become and stay a point of conversation for other parts of the world. If we're going to protect ourselves in the long-term future, the only way to do that is to further diversify our economy, and that diversity exists in some other part of the world.
Wonderful. And if we can be a partner to your department and inviting and be part of the global discussion when a global leader comes through to tour or assess or explore other partnership with viewers, we would love to, of course, as a organization, host and learn more about the global conversation that we could be part of as well. So
I welcome it. I absolutely welcome it. We have to work together, and you have to be someone that we lean on besides the Greater Houston Partnership. And look, no disrespect to them, but their perspective is somewhat limited. They look to the companies that they have, they work to protect them, but we need to broaden that and we need to bring others to the table, and that's where you come in.
That's wonderfully said. Phoebe is asking us, what do you think are some of the most critical initiatives and priorities in making Houston a competitive and relevant international city? And I know that we received a question while you're already referencing some of those issues of Amazon and the like. Any other additions? Again, what are some of the most critical initiatives, priorities in making us competitive international city?
You know, I think that there's so much that goes into answering that question. I'll just tell you that as a law enforcement officer, places that I would travel to and see how, for example, in Mexico City, they created what they refer to as a tourist police unit that patrolled the areas that were most attended by tourists in Mexico City. And what that consisted of was bilingual officers in various languages. It was officers who understood how to engage the embassies and the consulate offices in Mexico City. It was officers who got some instruction and education about other parts of the world of where their tourists mostly came from. That, again, is intentional. So we have to look at those examples. And that's why, again, adding global affairs to intergovernmental is critical, because if someone from another part of the world is Googling Harris County to see, because they understand they have a crazy county commissioner by the name of Adrian Garcia who reaches out to other parts of the world, they want to know how to start the process. And so that if global doesn't exist somewhere in our website, then we may not get that conversation. And that conversation could mean a whole new $1 billion opportunity for business here in our community. And that would be a huge loss. So several things, I think. Number one, what we've done with Mr. Reed's office is to make sure that we are intentional about engaging in the international arena. Secondly, it's important to have a partnership with the World Affairs Council, an active, intentional partnership to hear from you where we are short and what we should be doing better at to make it easier for you, because really you've got the relationships already. And if you're trying to attract someone to come to Houston, Harris County, and they are saying, well, I don't know, because of whatever, then we need to make sure that the door is open for you to say, hey, Commissioner, you need to change this, or you need to add this, or you need to do this. And then we have to respect that and act on it, because then it makes it easier for you to attract that interest into our economy and those opportunities. And then the other one is that we need to look more respectfully to Harris County to build those international relationships, because Houston used to have a 2-year term cycle. Now it's got a 4-year term cycle, but 8 years or 4 years is not enough time sometimes to build those relationships in other parts of the world. And county government has no term limits. So I'm looking to be here for a very long time, to start a conversation from just an idea and work on it, engage others, and see it to its full fruition that may take 10 years or 12 years. And so county government has that opportunity that sometimes I remember working with Miss Helen Chang, God bless her soul. She was always frustrated because just as she got a conversation going somewhere, new elected officials came in.
Yeah.
And so she would have to start the process all over again. And so county government is much more stable in that regard. And I think it creates much more opportunity and stability, and making sure that the person that they started that conversation with is still the same person that they can talk to a few years later.
Thank you. And we have a great flow of questions coming in. So if I don't get to it, or Commissioner and I don't get to it, don't get discouraged. You can always reach us or me at the council, and we'll make sure we facilitate those answers to you. So again, just know that we are watching for them, and we just might not get to it because we have so many things to talk about. So Commissioner, you mentioned education as well, and that is something that we as a council, that is our primary mission, is the education and how we bring that wealth to Houstonians. It doesn't matter where they come from, how they've been here, how old are they, it's open. And as such, we participate with many high schools, from Title I schools to homeschool children, to private schools, to public schools. And we have, again, it's all about the greater reach and encompassing Houston. I think we're about 17 school districts already. So it's quite a great number to celebrate for us as an organization. And we participate with high school students, again, various ways. And the students knew, who are the members of Student World Affairs Council. You mean a little wax sign behind me, WC, S in front would be Student World Affairs Councils. And they have submitted some questions for me to ask you. So a couple of the following questions will be coming from the active students and some of our interns actually too, for you. Joel is asking, what is the most difficult part of your job?
Most difficult part of the job, Joel, is that there's enough days, there's enough hours rather in the day for me to do my job. There's just none left to sleep. And so the most difficult part of my job, because it's a self-imposed difficulty, is that I want to do so much that we just don't have enough time in a day to get to it all. And so I'm just fortunate to have dedicated staff who work long hours with me, who work through the weekends. They literally get no days off. Of course, I try not to bother them, but then I'll get an idea or I'll hear something and it starts a conversation at Sunday night, and then we get started on it Monday. It goes through the holidays. Even when people are on vacation, I'm so fortunate that they still pick up their phone because I forgot that they're on vacation. And so that's the difficult part of it, is that we just don't have enough time in a day to get to all the things that I think are important and necessary for us to do. But that's a fun difficulty to have. And I love the challenge of it. Good question.
Yeah, and it's so funny, maybe it's funny, but Erica's question very much leads to where you're almost leaving it, which is, how do you find your work-life balance? I know that I personally, in research for this dialogue, came across that you cycle a lot. Is there something else on the balance?
The balance is my family, first and foremost. That's where I find the greatest opportunity to decompress. My wife keeps me humble and grounded. When she tells me to take out the trash, I try to remind her that I'm a county commissioner of a big county. And she says, yeah, Commissioner, take out the trash. But the balance is really, I love to travel. Go figure. I love visiting other parts of the world. I love, enjoying the food. And yes, I do like to cycle. So where I get my greatest relaxation is in a good workout. But I try to bike into work every day. And before the weather got bad on us, I was averaging about almost 80 miles a week on my bicycle. And because I would bike from my home to the office, I would go, if the meetings were nearby, I would go to my meetings on my bicycle. I'd go to my lunch meetings on my bicycle, and then I would bike back home. And then on the weekends, like this weekend, I'm planning on doing a couple of 20-mile days. And I'll tell you, I want y'all to join me. I'm working on building a tour, the Precinct 2. And so I want y'all to join me. If you ever want to connect for a bike ride and there's a trail you want to enjoy, or if you want to come enjoy some of my trails, please do so. But biking, I love it. I've lost a lot of weight doing it. So it's been healthy as much as it's been relaxing.
Wonderful. I know we're coming closer to the end part of our dialogue. I literally have a couple of questions, so I'll gauge how quickly we get through them. And again, if somebody feels that we didn't get to them, it's just a lack of time, not any other reason. This is a little bit more involved question. Let me read it out for you, Governor. Geez, it's Friday. It's a Friday. Maybe, never said never. Paresh Patel is asking, so bear with me. Thank you for your leadership and service, Commissioner. Resiliency, sustainability, and equity are top mind on post-pandemic recovery. Relatedly, a just energy transition is at the heart of achieving the UN Sustainable Development Goals. How can the county engage in and advance on this endeavor, adopting the goals? Any comments on that? Yeah,
so Parrish, thank you. Good to hear your question. I'll simply say that Zoom, although I miss being in person with everyone, Zoom is a great opportunity for us to engage thought leaders. I don't presume to have all the answers, to all of the opportunities or the challenges that are in front of us. But I will tell you that we definitely have an abundance of interest and commitment to working on this. And so I welcome engaging anyone who has a thought out concept. In fact, earlier today, I was on a call with a gentleman, don't know him, sends me a message on LinkedIn. I looked at it. It was an interesting concept that he was proposing. So I invited him to have a conversation with me. This is where I think we have to be accessible to our thought leaders and to those of you with the entrepreneurial spirit who have ideas and concepts. And then it's up to me to figure out how we mold that into something actionable. So all these are issues that we have to work on, and we have to work on them sooner rather than later. Resiliency wasn't a part of county government speak before I came on, before Judge Hidalgo came on. It is now, and we've created an office of resiliency and created a resiliency task force. And now we're working on our electric reliability following the winter storm. So these are all things that, we hope to have thought about them 2 years ago, but sometimes you need events like this to make you remember or realize that there's still vulnerabilities. So I will leave it to you, the thought leaders in our community, that if you have a fleshed out concept, idea, white paper that you want to have a conversation about, I'm all ears. I love these kind of conversations because they often do lead to some projects.
Wonderful. I'm going to go ahead and start closing up our webinar with you today. I'm going to ask if you might have any closing remarks.
Simply to say, gracias, sheshe, namaste, sat sri akal. I want to just say thank you to all for the opportunity to share a few minutes with you. And just to let you know that Harris County is a welcoming county. We respect, admire, and embrace diversity. I have often believed that regardless of your walk of life, regardless of your nationality, regardless of your first language, that here in Harris County, we're in it together, and we have to be in it together in order for us to succeed into the future. So it is my honor to serve you. I am your county commissioner, and I look forward to working with you and hearing more ideas and creating stronger partnerships with the World Affairs Council and welcoming those with other ideas from other parts of the world. And when things get better, looking forward to visiting parts of the world that I have not yet been to. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I'm going to say thank you also to support from your department. They'd be fantastic to work with, individuals you mentioned, and great team indeed. Pleasure to have you today. Again, congratulations on your accomplishments. And I know that we could keep talking and talking because there's so much to talk about. So again, on behalf of all the Affairs Council, thank you for your participation, Commissioner, today. All the best to you, your family, your team, City of Houston, Harris County, and beyond. And wish everybody wonderful weekend. Again, thank you, participants, for your questions. Good to have you. And with that, I'm going to wish everybody a wonderful weekend. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.